Alright, number 7. You ready for this? God, why am I even asking that? I'm a video, I can hold conversation about as well as I can hold anything else. Whatever. The number 7 antagonist is... Oh god, I'm gonna get so much shit for this.
These are legendary Pokemon, Molly. And in this book, the artist imagined what some of them might look like.
Papa.
I'm like Entei, am I?
Well, then I am Entei.
Molly Hale, from Pokemon Movie 3, Spell of the Unown. To those of you who are wondering if you're dreaming or not, yeah, you are dreaming. Punch yourself, you'll wake up. Alright, give me a second to explain why a Pokemon character is on this list. First off, despite the fact it's Pokemon, the third movie is, well, it's actually surprisingly decent. Memorable characters and a rather strong emotional story. And I'm not being nostalgia blind here. I watched the second one and it was pretty damn good actually. I'm kidding, it was shit. I'm still kidding, my dick's stuck in the DVD. Molly represents to me probably the best example of a solid, fleshed out antagonist. The basics of her character is this. Her mother ran away from her father because he was a workaholic, and then at the start of the movie, Molly's father, an archaeologist, has an encounter with the Unown, which are like legendary Pokemon. And he disappears. Molly, now traumatized from neither having her mother or her father, ends up encountering the Unown herself, whom in all their legendary power and mystery start manifesting her subconscious desires into reality. Suddenly, there's a giant crystal palace and landscape in the middle of the town, she has a giant dog Pokemon to replace her father, and ends up getting the main character's mother kidnapped so she can have a replacement for her own mother. Basically, the whole movie is the effect of her being in denial of everything she's lost, and if that doesn't count as fantastic depth for a character, then god, I don't know what is. Not only is the psychology for this character ridiculously deep, but it's also dark as fuck. On top of all this, she develops as the movie goes on and she's forced to accept what's happened and all the things she's created aren't real, and it's genuinely pretty heartbreaking as you see these small changes in what she thinks as the movie goes on. The depth is easily stronger than Hisoka's, and despite the movie not straight up telling you what's going through Molly's head, it's presented in a way that makes it very easy to tell what she's thinking. So I understood her way better than Johan. In terms of superficial features, she's not as good as Johan or Hisoka, who both have very distinct personalities, but she's still pretty damn high up. She's a very cheerful and lovable character. Nothing original as far as personalities go, but she's still solid, especially if you want to count her uniqueness. I mean, you just do not see honest-to-god normal children as antagonists. But, I mean, just by itself, a sweet innocent little girl in the context of an antagonist is really interesting, and I think it gives her some strong superficial features. Of course, Johan's super creepiness and Hisoka's entertainment fact I think have a bigger impression on the audience than Molly's innocence or uniqueness. Also, before someone mentions it, yes, the 8-year-old is indeed directly after Hisoka. Coincidence? I really fucking hope so. Also, while I have a moment, let me just say, yes, Molly does count as an antagonist. By definition, an antagonist is just someone who opposes the protagonist. As I say, this is a list of antagonists, not villains. A character doesn't have to be evil to be on this list. Now, along with Molly's depth, the other major factor that has me putting Molly above everyone before on the list so far is the fact out of all the antagonists so far, she is easily the most humanized. Not even number 1 on this list feels more real and alive than Molly does. The movie even opens on a touching scene where Molly and her father are doing something as normal as reading a storybook together. On top of that, because she spends most of the movie in denial, it allows her to act like a normal kid. There are so many scenes where she's just having fun because she just wants to pretend that everything is okay, and it just helps to give her character so much more realism and feeling on top of the amazing depth. It's fucking fantastic, and I want to see it on more antagonists. Of course, I'm not saying humanizing is for every antagonist. You would ruin Johan's foreboding demeanor if you had him joking around or acting like a normal human. I mean, if you found a way to do it without ruining his superficial features, then good job, you've bettered his character, but fucking good luck with that, because that sounds pretty impossible. Racism. Okay, moving on. So this is the point where we go back to number 9, because I skipped it in part 1. So I could better explain here? Okay. Number 9.
So you want the gold back, huh? Because old man Cricket's your friend. Wake up! He's nothing but a decrepit fool who spends all his time chasing after a 400-year-old lie. But that's probably what you like about him, right? You like to call yourselves pirates, but you know nothing. There's no city of gold, no island in the sky, just oceans and ships and the men who sail them.
Bellamy from One Piece. Here's another interesting one. When people talk antagonists in One Piece, Bellamy is an antagonist that really comes up. But honestly, I think he's really underrated. I think it's probably because he's weak as fuck and therefore in a way isn't worth mentioning, but the fact he's weak is kind of the point. Bellamy is our first example of the concept of what I call a dick antagonist. And yes, I did just make my own professional terminology only to use a sexual organ in the name. Sophistication is my middle name. Liar is my last. What dick antagonist means is basically to make a character that we as an audience hate so much that it's super satisfying to watch that character have the crap beaten out of them. A lot of One Piece villains are fairly lackluster in terms of depth and don't really go past, I'm evil. And Bellamy isn't really an exception. but most of the antagonists in One Piece tend to be ones you love to hate, and they all have these satisfying high-impact conclusions to their characters. One of the reasons I put Bellamy here over other dick antagonists is because Bellamy is really unique in the kind of dick antagonist he is. Where most antagonists are just dicks to characters, Bellamy is a dick to something else. He's a dick to the entire theming of the anime. Now, if you know me, you'll know I don't like throwing around words like theming lightly. Maybe I'm just a Neanderthal incapable of any kind of deep understanding of a show's underlying principles, but I feel like the word theming is too often abused so that people can pretend that their favorite works are deeper than they actually are. Oh, Titanic is about theming of agoraphobia because it's set in wide open spaces. It's like, sea? Where else would it be set? Titanic in a house? Instant bestseller. But see, with One Piece, you know the theming isn't bullshit. It's super obvious. Mainly because they don't fucking shut up about it. We get it! You have friends! We all do! I have friends! I do! I have friends! I promise! Apart from the theming of friendship, One Piece also has the theme of dreams. Each crew member is emphasized to have their own dream, and our main character is constantly talking about his dream to become the Pirate King. And, you know, never giving up on it, blah blah blah, you get it. And then comes along Bellamy, a pirate who believes that the era of pirates dreaming is over. He looks down upon any pirate who does as naive and stupid and then proceeds to mock them. At this point, the series has been going for 150 episodes and you've been exposed to so much dreaming theming that it's hard not to get behind it. So when this guy appears, he's immediately an asshole. And when it finally comes to the moment where Luffy gets to kick his ass, boom! One punch and he's out. And by God is it satisfying. It takes a character we hate and makes them eat their words at full force. When I say it's kind of part of the point that he's weak, I say this because in a way, being completely dominated just rubs it in his face how wrong he is in both strength and ideals. Also he's being humiliated, which adds more to the satisfaction of the scene. Of course, Bellamy has nothing other than this. His beliefs give him a bit of personality, but other than that, he's pretty much a typical copy-paste bad guy with one really high-impact moment thanks to his elements of dickery. You might be tempted to switch this guy out with another dick antagonist from One Piece. Arlong and Crocodile are also pretty good dicks, but their arcs are drawn out. Bellamy is a short, sweet 6 episodes, so his percentage of good moments to screen time is much higher. Also, on reflection, the other antagonists in One Piece tend to kind of oppose One Piece's theming of friendship, but it's definitely not as solid and as clear as Bellamy. No one really says fuck friendship, but Bellamy is definitely saying fuck dreams. Now let's talk about why he's number 9. Firstly, he's behind Hisoka because while Bellamy has a high impact moment, Hisoka has great superficial features and some humanization. On top of this, there's a slight problem with Bellamy's arc that kind of takes away from his character. In one of his first episodes, he gets annoyed with the main characters for their beliefs and starts beating the shit out of them. Luffy and Co don't fight back though. Don't get me wrong, this is a great way of building up hate for this character. He looks so fucking smug while he's doing it, even though you know Luffy can beat the shit out of him. My problem arises in the reason behind not fighting. The reason given is that some fights aren't worth fighting, and it's like, it kinda works. It's a little bit unbelievable though, just a little bit. Cause it's like, you are being seriously injured by this. The phrase some fights aren't worth fighting might justify walking away, but it isn't enough to justify standing there and taking it. It works when your character feels guilty or is trying to protect a principle, but it just doesn't quite work here, and it kind of throws me off for the arc and takes away from Bellamy's spotlight a bit because the arc as a whole just doesn't feel as concise. Anyway, that's why he's behind Hisoka. As for being in front of Johan, this gets tricky. Johan has a significant downside just as Bellamy does, but they also have a significant upside. Bellamy's high impact moment and Johan's superficial features. But since they've got nothing else as strong as those two things, I can't compare how many strengths Bellamy has to Johan and make a judgment based on that, which is how I usually do this in order to get a fair comparison. So basically, this is the point where I compare incomparables, which is dumb for obvious reasons. So then, which is better, high impact moments or superficial features? Going upon what I said in my Death Note vs Code Geass video and my Attack on Titan vs Sword Online video, I feel like high impact moments are better because they, well, take you to a new height. That's about all I have to go on though. You could very easily argue this the other way around and ugh. Either way, I'm just gonna settle with this logic and stick Bellamy as number 9. But it's very much up for debate. Can you kinda see how number 9 got held back? It's because I was struggling for fucking ever to place this guy and I kept changing my mind and fucking hell, a script got screwed over because I was already written and See, verses are a lot easier for me to make because there's a lot less in terms of incomparables. In fact, I can choose the two anime I'm comparing, so they tend to have a lot of things I can compare. But with this, oh, there are so many more elements to compare and so many more motherfucking incomparables, it's hard. Oh my god, it's hard. Fuck this. Basically, what I'm trying to say is this. If you're gonna do a top 10 list, don't do a top 10 list. Alright, on to part 3 and number 6 of the countdown. No promises, but this might actually be out next week. These have been surprisingly easy to produce. So yeah, I'll see you there. Ciao.